Well, Lindsey Meredith is here to talk about her classes at the upcoming Illustrator Virtual Summit. Hey, Lindsey, thanks for taking a moment to chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave. I really appreciate it.
No problem. So, one of the classes you're doing is interesting because when people think about Illustrator, I don't think that brushes are the first thing that come to mind because brushes tend to be a thing in programs like Photoshop or Procreate or something like that. But there's some interesting things you can do with brushes in Illustrator. So, tell us about your class that's called Brush Magic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're making line work in Illustrator all of the time, but it really is amazing the kind of brushes you can make inside of Illustrator, how you can customize them. There's three different types of brushes. There's art brushes, scatter brushes, and pattern brushes. And with each one of those, you can really bring some texture into your vector artwork. You can bring some organic feeling, and just customization in general onto your actual vector path or stroke. Whether you're drawing it freehand or even drawing with the pen tool, you can apply these brushes. And I think that's really cool. One, again, for the customization side of things, but also sometimes we would like a little bit more grit or texture or, something other than just that mono weighted or various weighted, straight, smooth
Hmm.
line and be able to scale it. So at the end of the day, Illustrator is all about that scalability, right? And so if we're working on some work that we need to stay crisp but has some of those features, brushes are great for that.
Right. And one of the things that I've been always been fascinated with brushes and illustrators, you can create something that looks very like watercolor brush, but it is attached to an editable path, which is
Mhm.
pretty interesting when you compare to like Photoshop where you paint a brush stroke and that's pretty much it. Whereas with Illustrator, you have that ability to go back in and
Yeah.
continue to edit it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love making custom brushes. As we know, Illustrator has some pre-made ones, but I think most of us designers are snobby enough to not want to settle for the pre-made ones and
Sure.
dig into and not rely on grabbing other people's. There's some good ones out there, but learning how to make your own gives you a lot of power.
For sure. Awesome. Well, that's going to be a lot of fun. And your other class is on probably one of the key tools that people struggle with initially is the pen tool. So you
Yeah.
have a class on the pen tool master class. So tell us about that one.
Yes, absolutely. So I've always been in love with the pen tool. Obviously, it's the foundational tool inside of Illustrator. It's what I learned right off the bat. And without sounding critical, I'm just seeing more and more, especially designers that are on social media that maybe for whatever reason skipped right over it, jumped into Illustrator, got frustrated with right out of the bat, and went straight to the pencil tool. And while the pencil tool is very useful, has its uses, and is great, there's still just so much control in the pen tool. So I'm very passionate about the pen tool. I'm very passionate about reinvigorating this. All right, let's just take some time. Let's learn it because I think you're missing out on how much control is behind this tool, whether you're using a mouse or a trackpad or a stylus. I always recommend a mouse or a stylus because I think you just have so much control. So in this class, we'll just really dive into how you're drawing with a pen tool right off the bat, how you're really controlling each point and path, and then obviously the challenging part is the curves, right? And so the Bezier curves and how you control them from one place to another. So we'll have some exercises we'll go through that. Honestly, I feel like it took me incrementally, maybe like 5 years and then another 7 years, where some of these things were like aha moments for me. And I would love for students to get that like all in one setting so that you're just using the pen tool in the most efficient way right off the bat.
Right. And I think it's one of those tools where I think you hit the nail on the head by saying aha moments because I know I used to teach Illustrator in small group classes, and there'd always be that moment where people were trying to figure out, okay, I want to end up with this kind of curve. How would I do that in that time where they finally figure out the way the handles work and everything, and they kind of go,
Mhm.
oh, they make all of a sudden everything is easier once you get a
Yes.
handle on that, so to speak.
And you have that like, why didn't I figure this out 5 years ago? That would have been nice. Like, I'd love to bring that to everybody just now.
Well, and I think the other thing about to me about the pen tool is that the pen tool is used to create paths. Paths are the building block of everything. So once you understand the pen tool, then
Mhm.
you also by nature understand better working with paths for
Yeah.
anything that you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, I'm not eliminating even if you draw a path right off the bat with the pencil tool or the brush tool that I just talked about that has this applied brush attribute to it, you still sometimes go back with that pen tool, right, and clean things up, remove and add
Mhm.
paths. So it's just so foundational. It's good to know.
Right. Awesome. Now, we always like to mention things that the bonuses the VIPs might get. So, what do you have in mind for our
Yeah.
VIP members?
So in the brushes class, I will be walking through making these different kinds of brushes. And just as a bonus, there's some nice texture ones. There's some art brushes. I'm going to offer those up just for students to have to either use, or they can kind of dissect them a little bit too and just see how they work. But then just having some brushes, some new brushes in their collection to use. And then for the pen tool, some of the things we will walk through, there will be some lot. We'll be going over a lot of key commands, and it's a lot to learn. It's a lot to remember. So there'll be a cheat sheet and then a practice sheet, so that if you want to go and actually have something on a bottom layer in Illustrator to follow along with, that really helps the learning effort there.
Fantastic. Well, those sound great. And Lindsay, I thank you so much for taking a few
Yeah,
minutes to
thank
chat
you.
about your classes.
Yeah, really excited. Thank you so much.